Welcome to the First Hebrew Primer, Chapter 22. Let's take a look at the vocabulary for this chapter. In the upper right, we have the word or, which is light. Or is light right in the beginning of Genesis 1, right? And God said, let there be or. Below that, we have the word emet is truth. Emet, truth. Then the word aron is ark. Aron. Then boker is morning. Boker. In fact, a very common contemporary greeting in Hebrew in the morning is to say boker tov, which is good morning, right? Beneath that is a very important word in the Old Testament. Berit is covenant. Berit, covenant. Then the word for generation is dor, generation. The word for month is chodesh, chodesh, month. Then in the upper left we have chen, grace or favor. Then the word moed, which is an appointed time or season. Then we have safar, which means to count. And then the word for work is avodah. That's the noun, work. Then we have the word for evening, erev, erev. So if you want to say good evening in modern Hebrew today, you'd say erev tov, right? And then we have the inward part or midst is kerev. And then finally the verb to break is shabar, to break. Now there are some idioms that are helpful to point out from the vocabulary. One very common one in the Torah is ochel moed, that is the tent of meeting, which is what one of the names of the tabernacle is, the tent of meeting. So moed, one of your vocabulary words, is a part of that idiom or phrase. Another fairly common idiom in the Old Testament is to use the verb matzah, which means to find, plus the word favor, which we just learned, or grace, chen, and then in the eyes of. So to find favor in the eyes of someone means that they, are positive towards you, that they like you, that they, are going to be on your side in a sense. So in fact, here's an example of it from in the idiom as more like outlined for us. It says, Rachel matzah chen b'nei Yaakov. Rachel found favor in the eyes of Jacob, which just means that Jacob liked Rachel. All right. Now, we're going to talk quite a bit about pronoun endings today, and there are three words in particular that regularly occur with pronoun endings, and it will be helpful for you just to spend some time studying these forms and familiarizing yourselves with them. So one is the word all, or kol, is regularly used with pronoun suffixes or pronoun endings, and you can just see the paradigm here. And there's a little bit of a vowel change. It goes from kol as a short O vowel to a U vowel, ku. So kuli is all of me, kulecha, all of you, and so on. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can go down and see all of these. Another really common word is the particle hine, which is often translated behold or look or something like that. And it regularly is used with pronoun endings as well. And in fact, one common response to someone, calling someone is they would respond by saying hineni, which is very literally would be like, behold me. That comes across a little strong in English. It's more commonly translated simply, here I am. And I think that's a good translation for it. And you can see the rest of the pronoun suffixes on that word. And then finally, the negative particle hein is regularly used, or ein is regularly used with the pronoun endings to be like I am not, to negate that pronoun, or you are not, or he, she, or it is not, and so on. So I just take some time to, like I said, familiarize yourself with those particular forms. All right, let's take a look at some sentences that have ein in them. Now you may remember at this point that the word ein is that negative particle that can be used to negate noun sentences. It's also the negative marker that you use with participles. So you don't negate a participle with lo or al like you do a verb, but you use ein. So look at this first example. We have ein Yaakov bincha, Jacob is not your son. Or you can see below, now it's with a participle. Roe is the participle here. And we have the man is not seeing. Now, the word ein, when it has with endings attached, is also used to negate noun sentences or participles. And when that's the case, the ein with the endings generally takes the place of the subject when it's a subject pronoun. So let me just look at some examples. Here we have the simple sentence, Anachnu amicha, we are your people. But what if we wanted to say we are not your people? You have the particle ein plus the pronoun we, einenu amicha. And we translate this, we are not your people. Now sometimes the word ein with endings is used together with a noun, and in such a case, the word ein with endings usually comes after the noun. So here's an example. Yaakov einenu benicha. Very literally, this is Jacob, he is not your son. Now it's probably better in English to smooth that out by simply saying Jacob is not your son. Or below we have Ha'ish einenu roeh. The man, he is not seeing. You could probably just smooth that out by saying the man is not seeing. The word hene usually comes at the beginning of a clause, and it's often has a pronoun object on it when used with a participle, and that serves as the subject of the participle. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the word hineni can stand alone, meaning simply here I am. It's a typical response when someone's called. So here we have hineni omed lefanecha, here I am, and then a participle standing before you. Or hinam ketuvim batorah. You could say something like, behold, they, and here's the they pronoun, behold, they are written in the Torah. Or we have vayomer hineni, and he said, here I am. Now kol, the word kol with endings can be used as the subject of a sentence, as the object of a verb or preposition, or as a word of emphasis. The word kol with endings can also be translated like the whole of something. So here we have kulanu b'nei ish echad. All of us are, it's a noun sentence, all of us are sons of one man. Or natati et kulam lamelech, I have given all of them to the king. Or ra'inu et hayam kulo, I saw or I have seen the day, or the sea, all of it. Or you could say, I have seen the whole sea. All right. Now the other main thing in this chapter is to look at when you use pronoun endings or possessive endings with nouns that are plural. So up to this point, we've only looked at pronoun endings on a singular noun. Now we're going to look at it attached to a plural noun. So it's not the pronoun necessarily that, the pronoun can be singular or plural, but we're looking at it attached to a plural noun. So the language I like to use for this is to say type 1 is the pronoun with a singular noun. And that's like the Lamed poem that we learned in our last 8-week session, where you have, lo, la, laka, lakli, lahem, lahen, lakem, laken, lanu. These are the same endings that you put on a singular noun. And I like to call those type 1 suffixes. That's actually, some other grammars use that language as well. When you put it on a plural noun, so you can see the type 1 on a singular noun. Let's just take a look at the first example here. Suso, we have the pronoun ending o, which is a 3ms, and it's on a singular noun, horse, his horse. But what if we wanted to say his horses? What if he had more than one horse? Well, what you do then is use what I like to call a type 2 pronoun suffix. So the type 2 suffixes are very similar to the type 1. One of the primary indications that it's a type 2 is that yod that intervenes between the root of the word and the pronoun suffix. So here we have Ive is the third masculine singular form. So there's still a vav there, but it's got that Ive with the yod, the long A followed by the yod. Or you have Eha instead of just A. So it's like the vowel has changed places there, but it's still a hey. And then we have Echa, Ayik, or I. This one's very close. the first common singular is just a patak or a short a instead of an I. Then we have ahem, ahen, akem, aken, anu. Those are the type 2 endings. Now, the other thing that's different with masculine nouns, and here this chart is showing a masculine noun. Think about what the ending of a masculine noun is. It's a hirik yod mem, right? So the plural horses would be susim. But when you want to say his horses, you take that plural ending off. It drops, and you put on a type 2 pronoun ending or possessive ending. So now it's susaiv, is his horses. So take a look at the difference between these two, his horses versus his horse. Or her horses, suseha, versus her horse, susa. And all the way down. This can make a very significant difference, of course, in translation, so pay close attention to that. Now you might be wondering, what does it look like on a feminine noun? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look at it. The type 1 suffix on a feminine noun is pretty straightforward. We've already looked at this in the past. If it's a hey ending, which many feminine singular nouns have, that strengthens to the tav, and then you put the pronoun ending on. With the type 2, it's actually quite a bit easier. You keep the holam vav tav ending, the feminine plural ending, is retained, and then you add the type 2 possessive ending to make it plural. So let's look at the type 1, torato, that's his law. Well, what if you wanted to say his laws, plural? Torotaiv. So you still have that feminine plural ending and then the type 2 suffix. And that's true all the way through the paradigm here. In fact, it might be worth just reading it so you can hear the pronoun endings. We'll read through this one. Torotaiv, maybe you can repeat after me as I say it. Toroteha, toroteha, techa, torotaich, torotai, torotehem, torotehen, torotekem, torotechen, torotenu. And that is our lesson for this week.